Hey everybody, and welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. Today's build is going to be a quick one. It's super simple, but it's also beautiful, and it's sure to be a big seller at your local craft show, especially come the holiday seasons. It's got a nice little see-through look here on the side that's angled, so it changes the look of the piece depending on where you're looking at it from. So like I said, it's a great piece, always grabs people's attention. But first I need to take a second and just say thank you. Thank you to the viewers for watching this. I'm absolutely blown away with the amount of support that I've had in the few short months of doing this channel. It really keeps me motivated to keep making these videos and put stuff out there. I also like to get to know you a little better, so leave something in the comments. Just say hi, tell me where you're from, recommend a coffee, anything to start the conversation. All right, let's get to the build. I recently had to do the deck on my utility trailer, and I came across a deal on some hardwood boards, so it's what I use to do the deck, and these are the cut-off pieces I have left over. They're maple, and I always found maple goes well with walnut, so I grabbed a leftover scrap piece of walnut I had from under my bench, and I'm obviously going to have to join these. There's quite a bend in this, and I got to make sure that all the joints are nice and flat where I'm going to glue them together. First I'm going to rip down my piece before I hit the joiner. That just means I got less material to take off to get a flat piece. And at this stage I'm purposely going to leave everything a little bit bigger than what I want for a final depth. And the final depth is going to depend on your T-lights. So the T-lights I have, I think a 3 to 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 is going to look nice. So right now I'm just going to rip everything down to about 3 1/2. Then I'm going to head over to my joiner and get one side of all the pieces nice and flat. I'll use the thickness planer to get the other side flat and bring it to my final thickness. And this maple is starting to look like it's got some nice figure into it. And now that I got all faces that are going to be glued nice and flat, I'm going to glue it up using my handy dandy little glue spreader here, and I'm going to leave it overnight. And here where I'm gluing up, I only really care about the bottom of the piece being nice and flush. The rest I'm going to kind of square up on my table saw and the planer. And when it's dry, I'll do a quick shallow pass on my joiner just to get all the hard glue and make sure everything is nice and flush. Because why not? I got a joiner, so it's way better than sanding. And I'll put my freshly trimmed bottom up against the fence. That sounded horrible. I'm going to put the flat edge against the fence, and I'll just use my table saw to square up the top edge and bring it to the final size. My saw blade is almost the right size for cutting all the way through this, but not quite there, so I'm going to have to opt for the old flippy cutty method here and take 2 passes. I could have reduced the height of the piece, but that would have meant I had to take off more maple with the planer in the next step, and I like the way it looks, so I just decided to go this route. And since I didn't join both pieces at the start, when I pass it through the planer, I'm going to try to take a little bit off of time and make sure they're equal passes, so I'm left with equal pieces of maple at the end. I'm not really sure why I didn't join both sides, but I just didn't, so this is the fix for it. But hey, let's not let that distract us from how beautiful this maple is turning out. I mean, who would expect? That's on my trailer right now. What a waste. And now to cut the ends off to final length. And this is kind of personal preference, whatever you think looks good. You just want to make sure your candle holders are evenly spaced. And I gotta be honest, I didn't put any thought into mine at all. The candle holder box that I bought came with the holders in rows of 3. So I literally just measured the box and copied that. So I'm making mine 10 inches long. And I'm not just picking a random spot for my first cut. I've noticed that one of my seams isn't as tight as I'd like it to be, so I'm going to cut that off. And then from there I'll measure in my 10 inches and have a real nice solid looking piece when I'm done. And then I'm going to start marking out for my holes. And in my opinion, there's only 2 ways to lay this out. You can make sure that all the spaces on the outside and the inside of the candle lights are the same, or you can do what I'm doing, and that's leaving the outside edges a little thicker than in between the candles themselves. And that's fine, as long as the spaces between the candles are equal and the 2 outside edges are equal, I think that looks fine. Over at the drill press, I've got a 1 3/4 Forstner bit in, and that's obviously going to depend on the style of tea light holders that you have. Actually, I'm going to leave a link in the description of the ones I'm using just to take some of the guesswork out. So I clamp down my piece and just start hogging out all the holes. And as I watch this back, I notice that my drill bit's got quite a little shimmy to it. 98% chance that's operator installation error, but I'll have a look at that later. Luckily, this is not a precision piece, and I never even noticed when I put the tea light holders in, so it was still a good fit. Oh, and I set my depth so that I didn't go all the way through the bottom of the piece. I set my candle holders in, and I didn't quite like the way the tops stayed protruding, so I figured I'd take a round over bit here and recess the hole just ever so slightly to make them fit a little better. Oh, that's gooder. Much gooder. Now we're going to set up the table saw to make the slits in the side. And I've got my blades set up right about a 20-degree angle. And I'm going to use the piece just to reference the blade and make sure I've got the height set just enough that it's going to break through into the holes I drilled. I'm going to make my first slit just by eyeballing where I think it would look good. In this case, it's about 3/8 of an inch. And then every slit I add after that, I'm going to make sure I move that same amount to keep everything evenly spaced. And I'm cutting both sides before I move the fence. I don't like to go too steep on my angles because that limits where you can see the light shining through. Like for instance, if you put a real steep 45-degree angle in, you've got to pretty much stand over top of it to see the light coming through the sides. And you can even consider putting the angles going the opposite direction as I am if you're going to have this sitting up somewhere high. And to finish this, I'm going to sand it once with 150, then I'm going to water pop it and let it dry. Then I'll go back with a 220 pad and sand it all again. I don't really know if I've got a rhyme or reason as to why I water pop sometimes and sometimes I don't. Well, I kind of do actually have one reason for doing it. I find if it's a piece that I pick up and I like to feel around with my hands, then I'm assuming a customer is going to do that too. So I want it to be a real nice silky smooth finish for them. It just adds to the sensory part of picking up a handmade piece. And to finish it, I'm going to put a Rust-Oleum clear coat on top of it. And I'm probably going to do 3 or 4 light passes. There's so many nooks and crannies inside this that I really don't want any drips that I have to clean up afterwards. And in between coats, I give it a wipe down with a super fine steel wool cloth. And I'll also do this after the final coat too. It just takes away any little piece of dust or imperfection from the spray. And all that's left is to drop in your candle or your battery powered tea light. I mean, wow, I really love the way these turn out. And like I said, customers do too. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time on the next video.